You want to talk Davis at all while we're on the topic with him? Or
I
is
mean,
that's a whole nother one.
That was a whole
the
nother
trade.
one. But that's why I was like, I didn't want to do Malik. But then I was like, we already did Malik. So
damn, I screwed that up.
No, you're good, bro. I was just figured we just won't switch the graphics. We'll just keep it as is, man. I ain't tripping.
What's the graphic say?
Something about a trade.
Well, no. This one says roster. Roster cuts. This has something to do with the roster, right?
We'll make it work.
Yeah.
I think the people. It's just hard on post production. So Dom, it's on Dom. But shout out to the young dude, man. Dom will get it right.
Yeah. So Jesse Davis,
Yeah,
another one. I just feel like it's a good move. Like we gave up a 7th-round pick in 2025 for a dude that has started a shit ton of games.
Yeah.
A lot of people think he sucks. I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
But he has to be doing something right to be starting that much. And he's not necessarily going to be starting for us right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
He's a depth guy.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about him.
Unless you think he's flat out sucks.
Don't
and
do that. Don't you do that to me. Don't you do that.
There's no hope.
Don't you do that to me, Deke. Don't you do that to me.
Even if you think that, he's a depth guy.
Deke, don't you put that on me, Deke. Don't you do that.
We're not expecting him to start, so he's a depth guy.
Don't you put that on me, Deke.
What's wrong with having a
don't
depth
put
guy?
that on me, okay?
That started a ton of games. What's wrong with that?
Deke trying to throw that on me. Hey,
So you'd be cooking right
if
now.
you're the one, leave me alone. I'm gonna take a sip of this Gatorade. I'm gonna process, and then I'm gonna speak. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. But let me take my sip first.
What would be your move against him?
Yeah,
Right now.
We'll just say,
You're
how
go-
would you be Dan Moore?
You're going up against him right now. What's your move?
Literally, I had somebody ask me that about Dan. Who was I was talking to Pony. I'm sitting here like, bro, I'm over here breaking on all these players, and they're like, bro, when you look at Dan Moore, you got to go to in your head right now. What is it? I'm like, y'all got to chill.
Was he wrong?
Y'all got to chill. Y'all got to chill, bro. You got to chill. But what I will say is this, though, man. In all seriousness, when it comes to Jesse, it all depends on the role you're trying to have him in, along with where you are trying to play him at. With Jesse has a ton of starts. 80 games, 72 starts. That is by law in the NFL, you are a starter if you're starting that many games. Just throwing that out there. So that is the positive. The other positive is, bro, you have to be good enough to continue to get these opportunities to start, because as we know in the NFL, they don't have to keep you. This is not a scholarship league. You're not on, you're not guaranteed money. You're not, in terms of him, you're not in a position where they have to. They don't have any other options. There's free agency out there. There's the draft out there. There's the trade market. They have a plethora of options. And if we remember Miami of recently, they make those type of moves. They're not shying away from trading and picking up guys. So you feel confident in that part, and rightfully so. You also should feel confident in his positional versatility. I mean, he started at right tackle. He started at left tackle. He started at right guard. He started at left guard. He started everywhere except at center. So you could see some of that versatility with that as well. And at times, he has been consistent. But the things that make people concerned, or why that narrative is floating out there, is because towards the back end of his time in Miami, more specifically his last season there, they had him playing predominantly right tackle, and that's where he struggled the most. And that's why it was that conversation of, okay, is he just a guy that has starts, but now he's towards the back end of where he's at productivity-wise, because he is 30, if I remember correctly. So I want to say he was 30.
I think he's young. I think he's like
Check
27, 20. I think he's
Maybe.
only done
I
4
could be
years
wrong.
in
Okay,
Miami.
just check it. I could be wrong.
I'll check him.
I could definitely be wrong. Yeah, but check it out. But with him, though, that is part of the conversation. Is like, man, are his best years behind him? Because that last year in Miami, it was not as good as people would have liked it to have been. Then when you talk about
You're right, 30.
Yeah, then he signs to Minnesota. And he had a nice, it was like 1 for 3, kind of like a Kello Witherspoon a year ago.
He
with
came in
Seattle.
so late.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Like, he's not a young dude, bro.
He started playing his rookie season's 26.
So when we're talking about him, that's part of the reason why people feel like, okay, could it be his better years are behind him versus where he's at now? Because that last year in Miami, he really struggled. Then he signs to go to Minnesota this offseason, and they're switching in positions, but he's getting beat out. And that's what made him essentially trade beat. And it was the exact same scenario for Kello Witherspoon a year ago. So that's why it's like, I could understand why people are really kind of, apprehensive to him and not as high on him. But at the same time, I can see why you would be high on him. And when we're talking about just the recency element of it, Kello, plenty of people thought that it wasn't going to work. Hey, man, he had some good plays in San Fran, but he got to Seattle. He got beat out right away after he signed the new deal. They didn't want it. They moved on from him for a 5th round draft pick. Couldn't be that good. when he first came here. He wasn't really helping us out early on, but then on the back end, we saw how it played out, and then ultimately we signed him to a nicer deal this offseason.
We believe in him as quarterback one right now.
So for me, when I think of Jesse, now granted, age is different.
Mm-hmm. Talent
is different, but what I will say is I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, especially knowing that early on he's not the starter. Now, my biggest issue is where they're going to be playing him at. If they want to keep him at right tackle, I don't like that all the way because I don't think that that's his best position. I think right now at this stage he's a better guard than he is tackle. But if
we don't really need him at guard,
and that's the other issue. I'm like, man, we don't need him at guard, and we have a ton of guards on this team right now. Like, we obviously know James Danes and Kevin Dotson, but J.C. Hasner, he plays both guard spots. Kendrick Green, he's the backup guard. Like, he's one of those backups. That's what it is. So it's like you have multiple guys already at that spot. So with Jesse, I'm like, you're not going to play him at left tackle. The conversation is he a better version if you play him at right as a starter with Chooks opposite? Is that worth what we're talking about with the whole Dan Moore situation? But if we're not starting him, you get away with it. I think you feel all right. I personally would have rather kept John LeGlue or Joe Haig. I like their position flexibility. I like what they're able to do inside and outside. I know we brought LeGlue back for the practice squad. You just told me that. But as a whole, I'm like, I wouldn't have moved on from LeGlue. I think LeGlue is that safety net for us in terms of guard tackle, whereas Hassenauer is our safety net center to guard in terms of being able to play both spots and be just competent out there. So that was my whole like issue with it, man. But yeah, I think, man, just having a guy that has the amount of starts as Jesse, though, it is going to help. That veteran experience, that leadership, just the eyes that he is going to be able to talk to these guys in the film room with, that matters. Especially when you're talking about two young tackles. Chooks is still young. He started for 2 years. He's still very young. Jesse's going to have more starts than low-key. He might have more starts than anybody in that room. Because I don't think
maybe close between him and Daniels.
I was about to say him and Daniels might be the only ones, but I don't.
No, but I mean, he's starting
72 starts, bro.
16,
That's a lot of starts, bro.
15, 16, and then 10 games.
That's what I'm saying.
Year.
Like, I don't think any of them dudes have that just yet. So he is going to be one of our most experienced offensive linemen. But I will say, you don't have to be the best guy with this experience to still make it work. You remember, this would have been 2016, the year after Denver won the Super Bowl. We signed, it was named Ryan Harris. He was a tackle for the Broncos when they won the Super Bowl. When he came to us, we knew what it was because we had played against him. We was like, bro, you've been in the league for a while. You got the ring, but we looked at you like you was food. So it was like, man, but when he came here, it wasn't necessarily about the play. It was about the leadership. And that did help us out. You know, so when I think of Jesse, I'm like, yo, that leadership matters. That will help you in a sense. In the same way it helped when he was down, I'm like, yo, it could definitely help right here as well, man. So that's the other positive. If we need to end it on something to hang our hat on, that's what I would hang it on.
Well, that's a good call, too. And I'm sure we had to have vetted with Brian Flores before bringing him in.
I mean, they were down there together, right?
Yeah, he was the head coach there down in Miami.
Yeah.
And he was the starting right tackle for him these last however many years. So,
yeah.
No matter what you think, I like that leadership point. Like, Brian Flores had to have thought highly of him at least.
Right. At least think that it's a guy that is willing to commit, or he's a guy that character-wise he fits this locker room. Like, 100% you asked. It was the head coach down there. Why wouldn't you ask the head coach? Like, who's going to have a better breakdown of this dude outside of a position coach, but this is the head guy. So, yeah.
It's not a bad move.
Yeah, that's the thing I did want to end it with, though. It's not bad. The amount of experience that he's bringing, if that's the bare minimum that he brings to the table, that is still very significant when you're talking about this young offensive line group. Because even our on-paper best players, whether you're talking Chooks or if over career span James Daniels, they are still very young. Very, very young, man. So that's why for me, man, I'm like, I do like having this type of guy in that room with them.